Vastoda Satoshi Shrimad's Divine Grace, founder of ISKCON, Abhay Charanadavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki, Grantaraj Shrimadbhagavatam ki, their most merciful Lordship, Shri Radhakunja Bihari ki, Shri Jagannath, Shri Baladev Mai Subhadra ki, Shri Nataji, Shri Balagopa ki, Shri Sigarnitai ki, Yitai Go Premanand. All glories to the assembled. All glories to the assembled. All glories to the assembled. All glories to the lotus feet of Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tojaya Mudiraya Nasta Prayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhagavati Naishtaki. Reading from Shrimadbhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 5, Text 39. Imam Swa Nigamam Brahman Imam Swa Nigamam Brahman Evetya Mad Anushtitam Avetya Man Anushtitam Adam Me Jnanam Aishvaryam Adan Me Jnanam Aishvaryam Swasmin Bhavam Cha Keshava Swasmin Bhavam Cha Keshava Imam Swanigamam Brahman Imam Swanigamam Brahman Imam Swanigamam Swamam Avetyamadhanushtitam 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 Adan Me Jnanam Aishvaryam Adan Me Jnanam Aishvaryam Adan Me Jnanam Aishvaryam Swasmin Bhavam Cha Keshava Swasmin Bhavam Cha Keshava Swasmin Bhavam Cha Keshava. Please chant.
Imam Swanigamam Brahman
Imam Swanigamam Brahman
Aveta Madanushtitam
Avetya Mananushtitam
Adan Me Jnanam Aishwaryam
Adan Me Jnanam Aishvaryam
Swasmin Bhavam Chakeshava
Swasmin Bhavam Cha Keshava
Imam Swanigamam Brahman
Imam Swanigamam Brahman
Avetyamad Anustitam
Avetya Mananushtitam
Adan Me Jnanam Aishwaryam
Adan Me Jnanam Aishvaryam
Swasmin Bhavam Chakeshava
Swasmin Bhavam Cha Keshava. Imam thus Swanigamam, confidential knowledge of the Vedas in respect to the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
In respect to the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
All that said in Swanigamam. Brahman, O Brahmana,
O Brahma,
Vyasadeva.
Vyasadeva.
Avedya,
Avedya,
knowing it well.
knowing it well.
Mat,
Mat,
by me.
by me.
Anushtitam,
Anushtitam,
executed.
executed.
Adat, bestowed upon me.
Bestowed upon me.
Me. Jnanam, transcendental knowledge.
Transcendental knowledge.
Aishvaryam,
Aishwarya,
opulence. Swasmin,
Swasmin,
personal. Bhavam,
Bhavam,
intimate affection and love.
intimate affection and love.
Cha,
Cha,
and Keshava,
Keshava,
Lord Krishna.
Lord Krishna.
Imam Swanigamam Brahma, Avidyamaranushtitam, Adane Jnanam Aishvaryam, Swasmin Bhavam Chakeshava. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace of Acharnadavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. O Brahman, thus by the Supreme Lord Krishna, I was endowed first with the transcendental knowledge of the Lord as inculcated in the confidential parts of the Vedas, then with the spiritual opulences, and then with His intimate, loving service. Please repeat. O Brahman,
O Brahman,
thus by the Supreme Lord Krishna,
thus by the Supreme Lord Krishna,
I was endowed
I was endowed
first with the transcendental knowledge of the Lord
first by transcendental knowledge of the Lord,
as inculcated in the confidential parts of the Vedas.
I think that you have the confidential knowledge.
Jai Shri Jai Shri Jai Jai Shri. Then with the spiritual opulences,
Then with the spiritual opulences,
and then with His intimate loving service.
and then with His intimate loving service.
O Brahman, thus by the Supreme Lord Krishna, I was endowed first with the transcendental knowledge of the Lord as inculcated in the confidential parts of the Vedas, then with the spiritual opulences, and then with His intimate loving service. Purport by His Divine Grace of Acharnadavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Communion with the Lord by transmission of the transcendental sound is non-different from the whole Spirit, Lord Sri Krishna. It is a completely perfect method for approaching the Lord. By such pure contact with the Lord, without offense of material conceptions, numbering 10, the devotee can rise above the material plane to understand the inner meaning of the Vedic literatures. The material plane, including the Lord's existence in the transcendental realm. The Lord reveals His identity gradually to one who has unflinching faith, both in the spiritual master and in the Lord. After this, the devotee is endowed with mystic opulences, which are 8 in number. And above all, the devotee is accepted in the confidential entourage of the Lord and is entrusted with specific service of the Lord through the agency of the spiritual master. A pure devotee is more interested in serving the Lord than in showing an exhibition of the mystic powers dormant in him. Sri Narad has explained all these from his personal experience, and one can attain all the facilities which Sri Narad obtained by perfecting the chanting process of the sound representation of the Lord. There is no bar for chanting this transcendental sound by anyone, provided it is received through Narad's representative, coming down by the chain of disciplic succession or the parampara system. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshvasun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. See, further it's being explained. You see, this is really bringing out, isn't it, what's being offered to us in this form of devotional service, and what propensities have already been developed in us, even we may not be fully aware of it. These are the things that develop before a soul even surrenders to Krishna. It's saying that this was Narad's experience. I was endowed first with the transcendental knowledge of the Lord as inculcated in the confidential parts of the Vedas. Now this gives us reason to believe that he got this from study of the Vedas. That's the Vedas, right? You're reading, we're reading, and this is how he first gained knowledge of the Lord himself. And in the same way now we're gaining knowledge of the Lord. But then with the spiritual opulence, then he was endowed with spiritual opulences. And see, too, yesterday we were talking about the spiritual senses that we have to be able to, and this is pointing out as well, distinguish Krishna from us, Krishna, this, and the soul from the mind. You know, all these are abilities that the soul becomes endowed with by practicing Krishna consciousness. And so as time progresses, our abilities will become heightened. Our senses, being purified, will become more and more able to be used more perfectly. A dog can smell. I used to work in this place where we put together these lifts for trucks. And there was a guard dog there. And that dog, if somebody came, they would be practically a block away. And you would see that dog stick his nose up in the air because he could smell somebody coming that far away. So, we've been dogs. The ability manifests in the dog to do that. It's coming from the soul. The ability ultimately is coming from Krishna, but it manifests in the physical body as an opulence, you might say, or an ability to perform a particular function, right? And for himself, for the dog, it's a form of defense. So he can smell his enemy coming too, or he can smell his lunch coming. Or breakfast. Now I was analyzing in my mind, and Krishna Prabhu and I, were talking about Jyotish having the ability to know, according to time and circumstance, that a soul is brought into the world, its qualities and its characteristics can be known by the parents. So my thought is, if that is so, then they could plan for the future, when to have the child. What gives me the reason to believe that that's possible is because we read in Veda that a Muni did that very thing, telling his wife when the time was right. She insisted, no, she had to do it now. And so when she finally did wait when the time was right, the difference is revealed in the offspring. So there's a proper time. Another Bible quote, time for everything. Time to embrace, a time to refrain from embracing. Time to rejoice, time to be sorrowful. So, there is a time for us, and our time is now. Because Krishna is revealing to us how he wants to perfect us, because I was just analyzing my own desire to preach here in the material world. In a sense, in my mind thinking, because I'm here, of course, that's more important than where I would hope to gain at the end of this life, to get to Vaikuntha. But I think that's minimalizing the value of the souls who are continuing their devotional service in the spiritual world. So, which is offering more service, the spiritual realm or the material realm? We see so many souls here, but there's more souls in the spiritual realm. And more activities going on, which are all pleasing to Krishna. So see, we're making advancement to get to that stage of development. All these tyrants of the past, and in effect, all these wars, is one human being who is in charge of the military is saying, our way of living is better than your way. So we will do away with you so that our way of living will continue. Isn't that what war is? Right?
Yeah.
But see, even all these very evil, Pol Pot, and even above and beyond what Hitler did, it looks as though their belief in their own minds was that they were doing what is good.
Right.
Hitler thought he's doing a great service for humanity at large. The people, what was one of his speeches, he said the people deserve God's will now on the earth. And his idea of God's will was to create a human race far superior than any that had been created. But that's what Krishna consciousness is. Without the force, without the killing of everybody else, but by the, making a path for everyone. Making a house, a roof that everybody can live under. By the philosophy we follow. And that's what Krishna consciousness is all about. Helping us to see the means of being able to communicate this amazing message of God that now he's making available to every person on the planet who shows any interest whatsoever in his philosophy. He's just giving it. There's a statement in the Bhagavad Gita that brings this out, and in its list of forms of life of human beings that were in previous ages considered to be less intelligent. So Sudras, which are the working class of people, right? But we are all born in this age Sudras. And so Krishna is saying in this age, you're born a Sudra, you're not stuck in that position now. In previous ages, in particular places in the planet, if you were born Sudra, you did that for life. If you were born in a mercantile class of family, you were that for life. That was what this caste system was all about. You didn't have a way of getting out. And to some extent, you were shunned. That's what this prejudice is. It's a shunning of groups of people who are thought to be lower than others. Right? And Krishna is bringing this knowledge of the soul so that we can see, irregardless of what the bodily reflection seems to be revealing, the The soul is glorious. And Lord Chaitanya revealed more glorious than billions of suns. Because again, we have to be reminded, we're in a microscopic place. These forms that we're taking within this microscopic universe. The universe is coming out of the pores, smaller than the openings that the hairs are growing out of, the pores from which perspiration comes out of. Universes are coming out of that creative body of Lord Vishnu, whom we were at one time able to see from a distance. And we're in forms of that same nature. Now, Brahma, from our perspective, has the largest body within this universe, whose body takes up what we will look at as several constellations in this universe. Still, that's microscopic as well. If the entire universe is microscopic, then what to speak of Lord Brahma's body within it, which is not even taking up half of it, or a quarter of it. So this is what is the meaning too when we take on Krishna consciousness. Krishna wants to give us the ability to see from his perspective. Isn't that what it means? If we had a Kanta consciousness, then we would take on the way I see things. But we're taking on Krishna consciousness, which enables us to see how God sees. Isn't that amazing when you think about it? And how few people are considering that as an option in a human life. But that doesn't mean we're God. He let Arjuna see from a perspective that he could see from when he showed him the universal form, and all of it making up a tiny part of his body. So this is how he can let us see in reality as well where we are and what we want to use our energy for to enable us to get out of this. So this steadiness that Narad Muni is talking about as well. When I came to Krishna consciousness, I saw how important and how satisfying it was to Srila Prabhupada, as all the devotees were preaching, that this book distribution is the thing that pleases Srila Prabhupada the most. This is why he came with Bhagavatams in his suitcase, to give Bhagavatam, to give knowledge of God through these, as Narad Muni calls them, introductory. But not only are they introductory, but every time we read them, we get more advanced knowledge that is constantly available to us, coming at every moment. This that is pointed out in the Bhagavad Gita about the levels of classes of human beings. Women are listed on that list, right? And so in this present day and age, which to me it's a little bit funny, because the verse is itself pointing out how that there is no distinction anymore between any classes of human beings, whether they are women or whatever form, if they're a barber or a butcher or a baker or a candlestick man. Everybody is having the Vedas now being made available to them. And yet, women will take that same verse to say that it is patriarchal. Wow. To say that it is exalting males above females. But the whole point of the verse is that there is no distinction now. So see, this is how we realize we can measure intelligence by the conclusions people make about the statements being made by Krishna, and different people draw different conclusions. And then they will make a definition in their mind of who Krishna is as well. And so then we can understand who they are. by who they think Krishna is. So, the whole engagement that life is offering us in the energy that Krishna is making available to us, it should be a blissful experience from what I've seen. Because to know what the soul is made of, if it's made of a substance that can only be described as bliss, must be something pretty good there to know, right? So that's what Narad Muni is wanting us to know, and is trying to share with us what kind of freedom he has. Can you imagine? You go anywhere in the universe you want to go, and I suspect you can go to any universe he wants to, in fact. That's the way it is in the spiritual world. They go to any planet, and on every planet, a different form of Krishna is ruling that planet. Wow. What do they say? Eat your heart out, Disneyland. We couldn't imagine. It's hard for the mind in the state of consciousness we are in order to be able to cope with the energies of this world. It is. It's difficult for us to even conceive of the things that will be available in the spiritual world. And then what to speak if we're thinking we're restricted by the feelings our body's giving us now and restricting our abilities to that. But once we know all this that's being done with the mind, Krishna is accepting worship of the mind. When you use the mind to worship in, if you test the heat and the offering you're making, you're cooking, you can burn your own finger physically, literally, with the mind. See, the mind is the one that is having these experiences with the physical body, right? The soul is really removed from it.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's the mind and our attachment to it. It restricts us, it limits us, causes us pain, causes us what we think of as happiness, which is the removal of the pain. My aunt was in a grocery store one time. This relatively heavy-set lady stepped on her foot. She said, "Oh, I'm sorry, did I hurt you?" She said, "No, but it sure felt good when you got off." So that's what we look at as happiness in this world, the relief of not having the pain, right?
Right.
That's the epitome of the height of these physical bodies being able to contain what the self is in its natural state. So, as well, we can say Narad Muni is urging us by the urging to take part in this transcendental energy of Krishna to experience the heightened form of pleasure that the purified senses will be able in the future to be able to experience. That will give us the relief of knowing as well that we've made the right decision. When you have these experiences with your mind, and then you come to see and you compare your own life in that time that you didn't know Krishna and the experiences your mind is holding in remembrance as compared to now, what hopes you have for the future, what beauty you are able to have the tremendous privilege of experiencing every day. Every day Krishna is addressed a little bit differently, and you look about. Srila Prabhupada said Krishna likes variegatedness, and then used that statement, variegatedness is the spice of life. And so we see in Krishna how that he can take simple things and then reveal how, like 3 colors, just 3. Does the same thing with modes of energy, just 3 modes of energy. And by the combination of those makes every individually unique, every human being there is. And if you study them, you will see every plant is different, even though they're named the same. Every dog is different. Every bird is different. They've all been born at different times under different circumstances. And so how much variegatedness there is for Krishna to be experiencing whenever he wants to in his consciousness. Take this. The vision every single set of eyes is having. The hearing every pair of ears are having. The smell every set of nostrils are having. The taste every tongue. That's available to Krishna. And so, in the purifying of our senses, he wants us at least to be able to experience the best that we can with these bodies that we're being given, which is why the purifying of the senses, so that they can be used more perfectly and they can be experiencing what they were meant for. We might not be able to smell the same as a dog can eventually, but my nose doesn't even work hardly anymore. My body's been used for so many bad things in the past that some functions that it should be having as normal don't function like they should anymore. And we get that. Our eyes don't work as well as they were when we were young. Our ears, so many things, what to speak of, the brain. But see, the development, I did a show one time about phenomenal things that have happened to different human beings. This human being lived an entirely normal life. When they did an autopsy at the time of his death, they came to find out his whole brain substance was water. He didn't have any gray matter at all. So here's the thing. The senses of the soul are able to be manifest in these bodies once the senses of the body are purified. And that's what all these abilities manifesting in Krishna's devotees are. They are just, how can you say, parts of the baggage that comes with the soul, with being a soul. So just like we're saying, in the spiritual realm, they can go from planet to planet to planet to planet. We wouldn't even think about taking a trip to the sun today, you know. But when we chant Gayatri, it's exactly what we do. And the Guru is there. We first gain entrance by surrendering to the Guru. Guru gives us entrance to Brahma. Brahma gives us entrance to Krishna's presence. Then we chant in glorification of Krishna, the fact that he's allowing us to engage in his energy. Then we ask Krishna to shoot us with his arrows of love. He has divine arrows. He plays the part of Kamadev, Cupid. So when people are praying to be married, to have a suitable husband or wife, Krishna is taking that form of Cupid, who they're praying to. When the gopis are praying for a husband, they're praying for Krishna. They don't know, they're praying to Krishna for Krishna. And they do that when he's 7 years old. He's such an attractive little boy at that time. They can't do anything but want to marry him. He's the one they want to marry. You know, so this is how the soul should be towards Krishna too, in these forms. We don't have to want to marry Krishna necessarily. We're already married in the body. But to know what he wants us to experience, that's what we want to get to. And then as we show ourselves more and more surrendered, it puts Krishna in the place to be able to want to give it to us. But he's not going to do that until we show ourselves that we do really want him. So how much do you want Krishna? So just like Krishna came and he said, I want to serve Krishna. That's the kind of mentality we have to have all the time. And that's how we'll get Krishna. Yeah. You know, even you can work in a big industrial plant and never see the boss. Might work there for 20, 30 years and never see the boss even, Might see him on the TV or something like that, but never see the boss. How big a boss is Krishna? And he's making himself available to us. But think about this. I saw in Srila Prabhupada, when you can see him on video, his character was such that he was available to everybody. He didn't try to put on some air that, you weren't in a higher echelon than him, as high an echelon as, he wasn't like that. His personality wasn't, he was welcoming everybody. So, even so, I had been young in the movement, and I saw that immediately in Srila Prabhupada. Some of his disciples, I could see, that quality had not yet been developed. I'll put it like that, So, we are tinged. We have desires to want to be in the higher echelons of society. We have desires to want to be recognized by people as somebody great, or somebody who has accomplished wonderful. This is all a false ego. We don't realize already what state the soul is in its original state, which all these literatures are getting us back to. And then we'll know how glorious every soul is in its original state. And then by constantly every day being reminded of that, eventually those qualities will manifest in us automatically. That's the glorious thing about this seva, is that automatically these qualities of a devotee develop in your personality, in your character, and you might think you're just being normal. But you find yourself able to withstand the outward accusations of people from the material world, slanted, perverted reflections of who they think you are by representing Krishna consciousness or the Hare Krishna movement. And you come to see how minds have developed perspectives by their influence of other people, their desires to have enjoyment, what they think is enjoyment in the material world, to justify breaking all the regulative principles. Some people think breaking those regulative principles is like the heavenly delights that human life has to offer as a reward for us doing hard work and labor like slaves. You get to work like a slave, and then to enjoy it, then you get to break the four regulative principles. This is basically, right? The mentality, go to the gambling casino, after work, after weekends here, we can spend, go to the gambling casino. After that, you go to the bar, have a few drinks, and this is life. This is what they believe to be the rewards of life, isn't it? And the more of that kind of breaking you have when you take a vacation, then you go and engage in all kinds of illicit activities, thinking it is the pleasure offered to human beings to experience love, to experience power, to experience control, to experience a thought about ourselves as being beautiful, attractive, all these things that Krishna is in perfection. We're in this world trying to imitate him. And in so doing, we do all the things that would keep us from experiencing the kind of consciousness he wants us to have. And then naming it as fun and thinking of it as enjoyment, pleasure. And it's all false ego. All false ego. It's based on the false premise that we are the enjoyers and that we can somehow control the material energy for ourselves to get some enjoyment out of it. And so when you serve Krishna, automatically that's gone. Because not the same energy, not the same mood that will bring you to the state of being able to engage every one of these activities engaging in the energy of the spiritual, eternal, all-powerful energy of the Supreme Personality of God, we can look at it as the highest privilege human life has to offer, because it is by those acts we engage in that will free us totally, that our false egos has given us the belief that, we can have fun in this material world, will free us totally from that and give us the real experience of love, which is the fullness of what we're all longing for, is love. And with it, with love comes every other taste. Love is the highest taste that contains it all. Sometimes they make lassis, right, for Krishna. So all of these foods have various beneficial effects for the body. So one day it might be a blueberry shake. Next day it might be a banana shake. Next day it might be a mango shake. But then you can put them all three together. That's what love is. Love is all of it combined in one taste. And that's what Krishna consciousness is. And that's what we want to get to, love. We want to get to the perfection of knowing the love of God with us, in us, that can free others, that can free everybody we come in contact with. If we love those we're sharing friendships with, and we do everything we can to give them what we have now. And the more you give them, the more you'll have. That's a great treasure to know, isn't it? The more you give to someone about Krishna, the more he will give you about himself. And that reward of the mind, that's the real treasure of a Brahmin. To have a peaceful mind, to be thinking about how much God loves you all the time. I can be brought to tears in a moment. The Adi Ishwar this morning said, what wonderful parents you must have had for them to have brought you into the world. My God, it just hit me, I'm chanting, thinking about Krishna already. I'm feeling how privileged, how indebted I am. And then he tells me that, wow. I'll be crying all the rest of the day, probably. It's ecstasy. It's a form of ecstasy. When you get appreciation for what you're experiencing every day, that's like it's more than you can contain, I feel as though life has been made so easy now. And people come here. I used to have to, when we were living in those vans, one day we'd be in Ohio, next day we'd be in West Virginia, next day we'd be in Toledo, we'd be in Florida, next day we'd be in Texas. We were traveling like that. And if you have the travel bug, it's a wonderful thing, a wonderful experience. But then after doing it for 3 years, the travel bug wears out. You want a place where you can sit down and, for a few moments, read a book and so during our lives, there are various experiences we have to go through that will enable us at the end of our lives to not have to go through that kind of suffering. That's what karma is too, because we all got karma when we first come. But Lord Chaitanya says and promises that even though we do, depending, of course, on the severity of it, he will lessen it by allowing us even to experience a lot of it in our dreams. So, when you suffer in a dream, it can be thought of as a nightmare, but still, you don't think of it as real. Mm-hmm. The tendency there is to not take advice from it. For the soul, the experience in the dream, it's real. It's happening. When you're being threatened in a dream, is it any different to you, the value of your life when you're dreaming, as it is when you're awake. And that dreaming state is brought to us through the means of the mind. So it is going to be the means, the mind is bringing us after we leave too. So that's why we purify the mind, and then gradually, by the purification and the mind gaining the abilities, automatically it will take us with Krishna. Because Krishna is the one giving us the guidance on how to purify the mind, so that we can be transported by him. Any comments, any questions, any realizations anyone would like to share? I hope I don't bore you. No? Okay. Because it is kind of a repetitive message over and over again, just put into different perspectives. Of course, there are so many millions, I could say, different aspects of Krishna consciousness that in normal everyday life don't seem to have much significance at all. But then in Krishna consciousness, Krishna makes little things important. So this is how the difference between a syllable of a word can cause a completely opposite effect in Sanskrit. So perfection is something we have to constantly aim at, because no matter how perfect we get, there's more perfect to be get. Krishna.
So Prabhu, like you said, on devotional service, we will be getting this mystic opulences, right?
Yeah.
8. Can I know what they are?
You want me to give you my knowledge of the 8, right? Okay. There are 8 cities. Prapti city. You can produce anything. Just by the thought. Produce gold if you want. You can produce a flower if you want. Then you can become bigger than the biggest. You turn into a giant. Hanuman crossed Sri Lanka with that ability, right? Just in service to Krishna. You can become smaller than the smallest. I don't know of anyone who I can recall doing that.
So is this the same as Ashtasiddhi?
What is that? He's shaking his head. Asta? What is it?
Ashtasiddhi?
Ashtasiddhi? What is the meaning of Ashtasiddhi?
Hanuman Chalisa will be having, right, Ashtasiddhi.
Okay. Yes. And see, it's a form of flying, actually, when you think about it. The jump he made would be considered flying. You got to take an airplane to get
like
there.
whatever you mentioned, like the size,
Right.
small and whatever.
Then you can read minds. You can read people's minds. You can know their thoughts. And you can know their forward and backward. You can be Trikaligya. There are more than 8. Even though we list 8 as the major, Trikaligya is another one that is not listed, but it is an ability the soul gains. Once you've been here long enough to see enough history, you're going to know the effects of the future by, what happened in the past. Even to yourself. So as you apply it to your own life, then you see other people doing the same thing that you know you did before, and what result you got from it, they're going to have the same thing.
How about when he brought the whole mountain, he lifted up the whole, he couldn't find the right herb.
Didn't remember what the herb looked like. It was described to him, so he just brought the whole thing.
He just lifted up
Can
the
you
whole
imagine
mountain,
how
carried the whole mountain.
strong he would have to be to lift a mountain? Seeing Krishna did that, lifted Govardhan Hill, which we're still celebrating to this day. And he gave his devotee the ability to do that as well. And still, the amount of strength, just like Krishna says, all this, just a spark. Hanuman's ability to do that, he was only revealing less than a spark of his own ability that the soul has. Being greater than 60 million suns, the soul is. So even these seemingly great achievements of great souls and devotees are even only minimally revealing the abilities of the soul proper in the spiritual world. is manifesting in its relationship with Krishna. Visiting, he flies to one planet here, he flies to another planet here. All these things. And so there as well, you can take different forms. You can take a bird form. Krishna might want a particular flower that only be accessed by birds. You take a bird form and go get that flower.
Also, Sarupya, like the same form as Lord Vishnu, like four-hand form.
Yes, another thing, form like Krishna's body. It is said in, I think it is Chaitanya Bhagavat, that the souls who go to Vaikuntha, every person they see there when they first arrive, they think is Krishna. Every person you see in Vaikuntha, you would think is Krishna. The bodies are so attractive, and they all have bodies just like him. See, and this also reveals Krishna's desire to be able to communicate one-on-one. He doesn't want us to be thought of as some foreign, unapproachable being. He wants us to be able to communicate one-on-one with him. This is how the nature of his love is, to give us what he is, what he has, and sharing it with us equally. That's love, right? If I have something you don't have and you need something, why shouldn't love drive me to give it to you, right? That's what Krishna does. If he is love, then imagine how much that force is within him. If we have it to a little extent as we do, and even with that, we prepare prasadam, we're not cooking for ourselves. I eat so little now because I don't do anything hardly physically. I push myself to because I need to, but see, if you only take as much as you need, Srila Prabhupada says, to keep body and soul together, don't really need much. And that's what's happening with my chanting. We take this breath to be our own, right? It comes from God too. So the breath we're using to create the sound vibration of Krishna's name, we think that's ours. But it's actually Krishna's breathing. And we give out the name of God. You will find out you come to a place where you, practically speaking, don't need anything to replace it. You just, and that's it. That's all you need to replace it. And that's all. When you're chanting, if that's all you're doing, you can keep up with Srila Prabhupada, that I found out. Haven't been able to keep up with Srila Prabhupada my whole life. Since I was 33 years old. I'm 75 now. And finally, I found out Srila Prabhupada's not breathing for himself. That's how he does it. That's how he keeps ahead of everybody. He's not breathing. He's like Dhruva Maharaj. See, and Srila Prabhupada was revealing these abilities without revealing it. This is what the meaning of confidential is. He had the ability, he could be walking on air and nobody would know it. And devotees have seen that happen with Srila Prabhupada. So he reveals to whom he chooses to reveal what abilities he has to those who will eventually also develop those abilities. So just like we see the spiritual master, like I was explaining before too, the way we look at Krishna, we see him as the perfection of whatever we are thinking perfection is. And for most people, perfection for whatever job they're involved with, to them, the person who can do that perfectly becomes for them their perfection, right? So when the wrestler Krishna and Balaram entered into the arena, the wrestlers there that saw him thought they were the best wrestlers. They must be the best wrestlers. So we see Krishna from that kind of a perspective in our own experiences. It's running after time. I have to stop. But
don't stop. You stop.
We have to make sure that prasadam is transferred.
Okay, Prabhu.
I don't even still know. I'm not certain now that even the kitchen's cleaned yet. transfer was done, so we have to check that out. But yeah, we'll have another class tomorrow. I'd like to get myself in the mind of being able to give Bhagavad Gita class in the evenings, which would help a lot too, because we're supposed to be reading Bhagavad Gita every day, reading Bhagavatam every day, reading Chaitanya Charitamrita every day. If we do it together, we get more out of it.
Krishna.
Oh, I wanted to, Krishna book, 9 o'clock. I wanted to point out, with the breaking of the false ego, see, this military is like that to a great extent. When you're in the military, you might be driving a vehicle, it's not yours. You know it's not yours. You live in a barracks, that's not yours either. You eat in the mess hall, that's not yours. The food's not prepared by you, the food's not prepared for, is prepared for you. But all these things break down I, me, and mine. Now, you are what they call GI issue, government issue. You are the government's property. So, see, this is the same thing, Krishna consciousness. Now you are Krishna's. And he's going to clothe you. He's going to teach you. He's going to bathe you, teach you how to bathe. He's going to give you everything you need to know to be his friend, to be his lover, to be his companion. Everything. We're the most fortunate. I keep saying this, but it's just so true. We have so much to be thankful of. Krishna is so kind. There are more cities. I don't off the hand know them all because I haven't tried to aspire towards them. When I learned that, they come automatically. When it's needed, Krishna will give you the ability when it comes. Yeah, you can fly. That's also one of the abilities. You can become lighter than the lightest. You can become heavier than the heaviest. Somebody tries to pick you up, if you don't want them to, that's the master. See, these are revealing also control of the senses and what the senses can achieve. And so we look at them as supernatural, don't we? But for the soul, it's just normal, everyday activity. You go fly to, Krishna Loka. Just fly, just spread our wings and get up and fly. Angels do that. See? If you've ever seen an angel, they are glorious beings and they're much bigger. I suspect there are, angels bigger than giants. Even the biggest giants we've had. In Satyuga, they're 50 feet tall, human beings. And they're finding evidences of this, and this just totally wipes out every history they believe is the only history there is of the world.
In the Old Testament, the angels are scary.
Yeah.
They're not attractive beings at all.
Yeah.
They're very scary beings.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But see, Krishna was 12 feet tall. Mm-hmm. And all of those in the battle of Kurukshetra were of comparable stature. Mm-hmm. So their animals were of completely different stature than we know of too. Can you imagine a 12-foot tall man trying to stand on a horse that's 7 feet tall? No. Doesn't work like that. And Yudhisthira, see, revealing as well, the nature of this battle was not the same thing you would talk about horse and chariots running around in a circle. That's not what it was. They were not touching the ground. Yudhisthira touched the ground when he didn't do what Krishna asked him to do. Krishna asked him to tell Duryodhana, Ashvatthama is dead, that's the name of his son, which he would immediately have taken very grievously, and it would have weakened him in the battle, which is why Krishna told him to say that. Ashvatthama was the name of an elephant that had died in the battle. And so by saying that, he would have been saying the truth. But being religion incarnate, Yudhisthira was the son of Yamaraj. Yamaraj is religion itself incarnate. So he, being the son, is representative of his father, like son. Yudhisthira was religion to the extent that he would not even break what he considered to be the laws of truth, even though Krishna had said to do it. And that caused his chariot to touch the ground, it says. So, Krishna revealed in this pastime the difference between following religion and following what God says. There can be, see, your own guru, Bali Maharaj, right? When he was told by his guru not to give Vamanadev 3 steps, he said, you better watch out, this little boy is not who you think he is. And he took 3 steps, he gained back the whole, everything. He had gained control of the whole universe. And by taking 3 steps that Bali granted him, then he gained it back, took it back away from him. So Krishna, all these pursuits, the dark energy and the light energy, sometimes with people's desires involved with them, they cross and they intermingle. And that's why it's better to be, in Prabhupada's form, he says, as it is. That's why we can only take association from those whose hearts are pure. If we get tainted misconceptions in our mind, it will give us the result of tainted misconceptions. So if we have a pure lover of Krishna, who has shown by his lifestyle, by his entire life, to the end, saying everything is moving by the power of Krishna. We know this to be a last-time statement that will bring one directly into Krishna's presence. So we have this magnificent, perfect example of love of God in Srila Prabhupada. Why do we look anywhere else? Srila Prabhupada has given to the world the gift. The world needs to be transformed into a heavenly planet. And he's given it to each and every one of us. What we have to do is stay on the path. Keep the principles. And Krishna himself will do the rest. Yeah. Shrimadbhagavatam, Ki Jai.